The champagne was a 2018 Dom Perignon, and my husband had ordered it before I even sat down. He did that sometimes, made decisions for me with a smile so warm it felt like generosity instead of control. The rooftop restaurant overlooked downtown Nashville, and the October sky was bruised purple and gold, the kind of sunset that made everything feel cinematic, like nothing bad could happen in a world this beautiful. We were celebrating our second wedding anniversary, 2 years since I'd walked down the aisle in my mother's lace dress and promised forever to the most attentive man I'd ever known. I was 29, running my late father's real estate development firm, still learning how to fill shoes that felt 3 sizes too large. My husband was 38, calm and steady, the kind of man who remembered the name of every waiter and tipped 40% without making a show of it. He reached across the table and touched my hand. 2 years, he said. Best 2 years of my life. I smiled, and I meant it. Or at least I thought I did. Then my phone vibrated against the white tablecloth, and everything I thought I knew began to crack. I'm so grateful you're here. Before we dive in, drop a comment and tell me which city or country you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. And while some details are fictionalized for storytelling, the lessons they carry could save someone's life, maybe even yours. The message was from my older sister, Meredith. We hadn't spoken in almost 3 years, not since she'd missed our father's funeral, because she was closing a deal in London and couldn't be bothered to fly home. I'd deleted her number, blocked her on everything, and tried to pretend she didn't exist. But somehow she'd found a way through, a new number I didn't recognize, and the message was only 7 words. He's not who he says he is. My breath caught. The champagne glass trembled in my fingers, and I set it down before I could spill it. Around me, the restaurant hummed with soft jazz and low conversation. Couples leaning close, candles flickering in glass holders. Normal, safe. But the words on my screen burned like a brand. Everything okay? My husband tilted his head, that little crease forming between his eyebrows that always made me want to reassure him. Yeah, just a notification. Nothing important. I slid the phone into my lap, screen down, and picked up my fork. But the salmon on my plate looked gray and lifeless now, and the champagne tasted like metal. He watched me for a moment, then smiled, and went back to his steak. I was thinking we could go to Savannah next weekend. That bed and breakfast you liked on Instagram, the one with the garden courtyard. I already called. They have an opening. That sounds perfect. My voice came out steadier than I felt. Under the table, my phone vibrated again. I glanced down. Another message from the same number. I know you hate me. I deserve it. But I have proof. Black SUV on Commerce Street. Come alone. Please, Nora. This is life or death. My real name cut through the noise in my head like a siren. Nobody called me Nora anymore. Not since Dad died, and I started going by my middle name professionally. But Meredith had always called me Nora. Even when we were kids fighting over the last slice of birthday cake, it was her, and she was scared. I need to use the restroom, I said, standing before he could object. You sure you're all right? You look pale. Just the champagne on an empty stomach. I'll be right back. I walked through the restaurant on legs that didn't feel like mine, past the bar where a woman in sequins laughed too loud, past the kitchen doors where heat and noise spilled out in waves, down a narrow hallway to a window that overlooked Commerce Street. A black Chevy Tahoe was parked across the street, engine running, headlights off, and behind the wheel, barely visible in the streetlight glow, was a face I hadn't seen in 3 years. Meredith, older, thinner, her jaw set in that stubborn line I recognized from 1,000 childhood arguments. My hands shook. My mind raced. Every rational part of me said to go back to the table, finish dinner, kiss my husband goodnight, and forget this ever happened. But somewhere deeper, in the place where instinct lives, a voice whispered, "You already know something's wrong. You've known for months. You just didn't want to look." I thought about the joint accounts he'd insisted on consolidating, the friends who'd stopped calling, the way he'd convinced me to let him handle the company's finances because I had enough on my plate, the prenatal vitamins he'd brought me every morning when I was pregnant last spring, the ones that made me so sick I could barely stand, right up until I lost the baby at 11 weeks. I pushed that thought down hard and walked back to the table. "I'm not feeling great," I told him. "I think the champagne hit me wrong. Would you mind if we called it early?" Disappointment flickered across his face, but he recovered fast. Of course. Let me get the check. Actually, I think I need some air. I'm going to walk a bit. Clear my head. Can you grab a car and I'll meet you at home? He frowned. It's October. It's cold. Let me walk with you. No, please. I just need 20 minutes alone. I kissed his cheek, grabbed my coat, and left before he could argue. The night air hit me like a wall of cold water, and I crossed Commerce Street with my heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my teeth. The Tahoe's passenger door opened before I reached it, and Meredith's voice came from inside, low and urgent. Get in. Now. I got in. She pulled away from the curb before I'd even closed the door, checking the rearview mirror twice. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Dark circles, chapped lips, her hair pulled back in a messy knot. But her eyes were sharp, focused, the way they always got when she was working a deal. You have 5 minutes, I said. Talk. His name isn't Grant Holloway. The words hit me like a slap. What? The man you married. His real name is Gregory Volkov. He's a career con artist with at least 4 known aliases. I hired a private investigator 5 months ago after I saw your wedding photos online and recognized him. Recognized him from where? London. 3 years ago, a man named Michael Ashby approached my firm about a shipping investment. £15 million. My partner ran due diligence and the whole thing was fabricated. Fake company, fake credentials, fake passport. We reported him to the authorities, but he disappeared. I never got a clear photo. Until I saw your wedding pictures on your company's website and something about his face, the jawline, the way he stood, it triggered a memory. So I hired someone. I stared at her. You're telling me my husband is a con man you met in London. I'm telling you he's a predator who's been doing this for at least 7 years. 4 women before you. 2 of them lost everything. 1 of them is dead. The car was silent except for the hum of the engine and the sound of my own breathing. Too fast, too shallow. Pull over, I said. She did. We were on a side street near the river, dark and empty. She reached into the back seat and pulled out a thick folder, dropped it in my lap. Open it. Inside were photographs, bank records, court filings, and a single glossy headshot of a man who looked almost like my husband, but not quite. Different hair, different glasses, softer jawline. The name beneath the photo read Michael Ashby, London, 2022. That's him, Meredith said. And this, she flipped to another photo. Derek Lawson, Chicago, 2020. Married a woman named Sandra Reeves. Stole $2.8 million. She filed a police report, but they called it a civil matter. Another photo. James Carver, Portland, 2021. Victim's name was Rachel Kim. $3.1 million. Rachel took her own life 4 months after he disappeared. My vision blurred. Rachel killed herself? Pills. Her mother found her. She'd left a journal. I closed the folder. My hands were trembling so hard the pages rattled. Why didn't you come to me sooner? 5 months, Meredith. 5 months you sat on this. Because I needed proof. Not suspicions, not gut feelings, proof that would hold up in court. My investigator, a woman named Keiko Tanaka, spent 5 months building this case. She ran facial recognition across 3 countries. She tracked shell companies in 4 jurisdictions. She found a pattern so clean it would make a prosecutor weep. But I couldn't come to you half-ready. Not with him watching your every move. He doesn't watch my every move. Meredith looked at me with something that might have been pity. Nora, when was the last time you talked to your college friends? When was the last time you went somewhere without telling him first? When was the last time you made a financial decision without his input? I opened my mouth to argue and couldn't. He's been isolating you. Slowly, carefully, the way they all do. By the time you notice, there's no one left to call. The drive to Meredith's rental apartment took 15 minutes. She'd taken a short-term lease in East Nashville, a second-floor walk-up with bare walls and a folding table covered in files. Keiko Tanaka was waiting for us, a compact woman in her late 40s with sharp cheekbones and the calm, measured demeanor of someone who'd spent 20 years as a forensic investigator. Miss Morgan, Keiko said, shaking my hand. I'm sorry we're meeting under these circumstances. I've prepared a full briefing. Would you like to sit? I didn't sit. I stood in the middle of the living room with my arms crossed and my coat still on and listened as Keiko dismantled my life in clinical detail. Gregory Volkov, born 1,986 inches, St. Petersburg, Russia, came to the United States on a student visa in 2005, overstayed, obtained a fraudulent Social Security number in 2008. Since then, 4 confirmed identities, 4 marriages, 4 women destroyed. Total confirmed theft, $11.6 million. His pattern was surgical. He targeted women who'd recently lost a parent or spouse, women who were grieving and wealthy and alone. He found them through support groups, charity events, alumni networks. He was patient. Sometimes he watched for years before making contact. "Your father died in February 2023, Keiko said, her voice neutral. Gregory registered for the same grief counseling program you attended in March 2023. He introduced himself as Grant Holloway, a widower who'd lost his wife to cancer. You were married by December, 9 months. He'd gone from stranger to husband in 9 months, and I'd thought it was love. How much has he taken?" My voice sounded hollow. $4.2 million so far, moved into offshore accounts through fake consulting invoices billed to your company. But that's not the endgame. Keiko pulled up a document on her laptop. On Monday morning, he's scheduled to file a forged power of attorney that would authorize a transfer of $38 million from your family's trust accounts. Once that money leaves the country, it's gone. I sank into a chair. Monday. That's 2 days. Which is why we're here tonight. Meredith knelt in front of me. "Nora, I know I failed you when Dad died. I know you have every reason not to trust me, but I'm here now, and I'm not leaving." I looked at my sister, at the fear and determination in her eyes, and felt something crack open inside my chest. Not forgiveness, not yet, but something close enough to let me breathe. What do we do? The plan came together fast. Meredith had already contacted our family's attorney, Walter Briggs, a 70-year-old bulldog who'd handled our father's estate. By midnight, we were in his downtown office, signing emergency freeze orders. By 1 in the morning, Walter had filed them electronically with the federal court. Every account linked to Gregory Volkov and his shell companies would be locked by dawn. But freezing the money wasn't enough. We needed to catch him in the act. Keiko had been in contact with the FBI. A field agent named Patricia Reeves had been building a case against Volkov for over a year, ever since Rachel Kim's mother had pushed the Portland office to investigate her daughter's death. Agent Reeves needed Gregory to attempt the wire transfer on Monday. The moment he clicked confirm, federal wire fraud charges would stick. "You have to go home," Agent Reeves told me over the phone at 2 in the morning, her voice calm and direct. "You have to act normal for 2 days. Smile, have breakfast together. Let him believe everything is fine. And if he figures out something's wrong, you'll be wearing a wire. We'll have a team within 60 seconds of your location at all times. If you feel unsafe, say the word October, and we pull you out." I drove home at 4 in the morning, body wire taped beneath my blouse, rehearsing my story in the dark. When I walked through the front door, the house was quiet. He was asleep on the couch, his phone still in his hand, and for one terrible moment, he looked exactly like the man I'd fallen in love with. Gentle, safe, mine. I went upstairs, locked the bathroom door, and stood in front of the mirror for a long time, staring at the woman looking back. She had dark circles under her eyes and a wire taped to her ribs, and a husband who'd been lying to her since the first word he ever spoke. "You can do this," I whispered. And then I splashed water on my face and went to bed. Saturday morning arrived too bright. I woke to the smell of coffee and found him in the kitchen, already dressed, smiling. He handed me a mug and kissed my forehead. "Feeling better?" "Much. Sorry about last night." "Don't apologize. You work too hard. That's what today is for. Rest." We spent the morning in a careful performance of normalcy. He worked in the study. I read on the couch, or pretended to. My phone buzzed with updates from Keiko and Agent Reeves, and I answered them only when he was out of the room. At noon, his phone rang. I watched his face as he read the screen. The color drained from his cheeks. He stood and walked into the study without a word, closing the door behind him. I pressed my ear to the wall. "All of them?" His voice was tight, panicked. "Every account?" "That's impossible. It has to be a system error. A pause. No, she doesn't know. She signed everything I put in front of her. She trusts me completely. Another pause. Longer. Fine. Plan B. Monday morning, I'll tell her it's a glitch. Get her to the bank to authorize the unfreeze. Once she signs, we move everything before she can blink. I stepped back, my pulse pounding. He was already adapting, already scheming. But this time, I was 3 steps ahead. That evening, I sent Meredith a text. He took the bait. Monday, 10 a.m. Sunday was the longest day of my life. He was charming, attentive, desperate in a way that might have broken my heart if I didn't know what lived behind those eyes. He made me breakfast. He suggested we take a walk along the river. He held my hand and told me he was the luckiest man in the world. And all the while, I smiled and nodded and thought about Rachel Kim, who'd believed the same words from the same mouth and ended up dead. That night, alone in the upstairs bathroom, I opened the medicine cabinet and pulled out a small amber bottle from the top shelf. Prenatal vitamins. The ones he'd special ordered for me last spring when I was 11 weeks pregnant and glowing with hope. I'd kept them after the miscarriage. He'd wanted me to throw them away. Painful reminders, he'd said, reaching for the bottle with a gentleness that now made my skin crawl. But something had stopped me. Call it intuition. Call it stubbornness. Call it the hand of God. I'd hidden the bottle in a shoebox in the back of my closet. Now I held it up to the bathroom light and looked at the capsules inside. Green and white. Uniform in size, but not quite right. The powder inside was uneven. Some capsules heavier than others, and the label had no FDA number, no batch code, no manufacturer. I photographed everything, front and back, and sent the images to Keiko with a single question. Can you have these tested? Her reply came in 4 minutes, sending to a forensic toxicologist now. Don't take any. Don't let him see the bottle. Monday morning, 10 o'clock. The lobby of First Tennessee Trust was all marble and brass, and the hushed reverence that banks use to make you feel like your money is safe. He walked beside me in his charcoal suit, hand on the small of my back, guiding me toward the elevator like a gentleman escorting his wife to a routine appointment. A man was waiting for us on the 3rd floor. Silver hair, expensive watch, the kind of easy confidence that came from decades of telling people exactly what they wanted to hear. He introduced himself as Philip Crane, financial advisor. I recognized the name from Keiko's file. Philip Crane, born Philip Krasinski, disbarred in California in 2017 for forging client signatures. Gregory's partner. The conference room had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Cumberland River. A bank officer named Miss Hadley spread documents across the table, explained the system error, and pointed to the signature lines. This authorizes the unfreeze and consolidates all trust assets into a single vehicle for tax optimization, she said. Total value, $38 million. I picked up the pen. My hand was steady. I signed every form, and at the bottom of the last page I wrote, signed under advisement of independent counsel Walter Briggs Esquire, the 28th of October 2024. Neither Gregory nor Philip noticed. Excellent, Philip said, gathering the papers. Miss Hadley, can we schedule the wire transfer for this afternoon? 2:15, Miss Hadley confirmed. Gregory squeezed my hand under the table. Thank you, sweetheart. I know paperwork isn't your thing. Anything for you, I said, and smiled with teeth. At 2:15, in a surveillance van parked 2 blocks from our house, I watched Gregory initiate the transfer on his laptop. Agent Reeves sat beside me, headset on, coordinating with the tactical team. The first wire, $4.6 million to a Cayman Islands LLC, went through on his screen. Green light, success message, transaction ID. But on the FBI system, the money froze the instant it hit the intermediary bank, seized. The second wire, $33.4 million to a Swiss account, flashed red, transaction denied. I watched his face through the hidden camera, white, rigid, the mask finally cracking. He grabbed his phone. Philip, it's blocked. All of it. She must know. She has to know. Agent Reeves spoke into her headset. Wire fraud confirmed, 19 counts, move in. Wait, I said. Everyone looked at me. I need 5 minutes with him. Alone. On the wire. Reeves studied me. If he threatens you, say October. He won't threaten me. He still thinks he's smarter than everyone in the room. I walked the 2 blocks home, let myself in through the front door, and found him in the study, pacing, phone pressed to his ear. When he saw me, relief flooded his face. Thank God. There's some kind of bank error. I need you to call the trust manager and— Sit down, Gregory. The name landed like a bullet. He froze. The phone slipped from his hand. What did you call me? Your name, Gregory Volkov. Or do you prefer Michael Ashby, Derek Lawson, James Carver? For a long moment, he just stared, and then something shifted behind his eyes. The warmth drained out, the charm evaporated, and what remained was cold and flat and empty. Who told you? My sister. The one you tried to keep away from me. She recognized you from London. 3 years ago, you tried to con her firm out of £15 million. She never forgot your face. He was quiet for 5 seconds. 10. Then he laughed, a short, ugly sound. I should have dealt with her first. You should have dealt with a lot of things, like Sandra Reeves and Rachel Kim. The laughter died. Rachel was weak. Rachel is dead. Because of you. Rachel killed herself. That's not my problem. It will be. In about 60 seconds, an FBI tactical team is going to come through that door and arrest you for wire fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy. 19 federal counts. You're looking at 30 years. He took a step toward me, and for the first time, I saw something that might have been fear. You're bluffing. I'm wearing a wire, Gregory. Everything you've said in the last 3 minutes is being recorded by the FBI. Every word, every admission. The color left his face completely. He turned toward the window, then back to me, then toward the door, calculating, searching for an exit that didn't exist. And one more thing. I kept my voice steady even as my heart tried to break through my ribs. Those prenatal vitamins you gave me last spring? The ones you special ordered? A forensic toxicologist found pennyroyal oil and blue cohosh in every capsule. You poisoned me. You killed our baby. His jaw tightened. You can't prove that. I kept the bottle. I kept every capsule. The lab results come back Wednesday. And your partner Philip already agreed to testify that he purchased the ingredients for you. The front door splintered. 4 agents in tactical gear flooded the hallway, weapons drawn, voices overlapping in sharp commands. Gregory Volkov, FBI! Hands where we can see them! On the ground! Now! They took him down in the study, face pressed to the hardwood floor I'd picked out when we moved in together, wrists cuffed behind his back. Agent Reeves walked in behind them, calm and professional. Gregory Volkov, you are under arrest for wire fraud, identity theft, conspiracy, and administering a noxious substance resulting in the death of an unborn child. As they hauled him to his feet and walked him past me, he leaned close. His voice was a whisper meant only for my ears. You think this is over? I met his eyes. No, I think it's just beginning. For you, in a cell. For me, in a courtroom. And for Rachel Kim's mother, who's been waiting 3 years to hear someone say your real name. They put him in the back of a black SUV. I stood on the front porch and watched it pull away, and I did not cry. Not then. The crying came later. Alone in the bathroom at 3 a.m, when the wire was off and the adrenaline was gone, and the silence of the house pressed in from every direction. But that morning, standing in the October light, I felt something I hadn't felt in 2 years. Clarity. The fog was lifting, and underneath it I was still there. Bruised, angry, grieving, but alive. And ready. The trial began on November 18th in the federal courthouse in Nashville. Prosecutor David Chen called 4 witnesses in 3 days. Sandra Reeves from Chicago went first. She described how a man named Derek Lawson had found her at a bereavement group after her husband's death, married her in 5 months, drained her accounts of $2.8 million, and vanished. The police had called it a civil matter. She'd lost her house. Rachel Kim's mother, Helen, flew in from Portland. She didn't testify about money. She testified about a leather journal she'd found in her daughter's apartment after Rachel's death, and she read the final entry aloud in a voice that shook but never broke. He took everything. My savings, my apartment, my reason to keep going. If anyone finds this, please stop him. I can't do this anymore. 3 jurors were crying. The judge called a recess. Then came a video call from London. A woman named Irina Volkov appeared on screen. dark-haired, exhausted, an interpreter beside her. Gregory's legal wife, married in 2013, mother of his 2 children. She'd been trying to divorce him for 6 years. He'd never responded to the filings. He left on a Tuesday, Irina said through the interpreter. Kissed the children goodbye. Said he'd be home in a month. My son still asks when his father is coming back. The bigamy charge landed like a hammer. Every marriage after Irina's was void, including mine. I took the stand on day 3. I told the jury about the anniversary dinner, the text message, the vitamins, the miscarriage. Prosecutor Chen played the recording from my confrontation. Gregory's voice filled the courtroom. Rachel was weak. That's not my problem. I should have dealt with her first. The defense attorney argued consent, voluntary relationships, signed documents. But the jury had heard Gregory's voice, cold and calculating, dismissing a dead woman as weak. They had seen the spreadsheet from his encrypted laptop, a list of 12 names, estimated inheritances, and activation windows. My entry read, NM3040M, Father Terminal, activate post-inheritance. He'd been watching me since my father's diagnosis, waiting for him to die. The jury deliberated for 4 hours, guilty on all 36 counts. Sentencing came a week later. Judge Whitmore looked at Gregory across the courtroom and spoke without emotion. Mr. Volkov, you systematically targeted grieving women, exploited their trust, stole their wealth, and in one case, administered poison that killed an unborn child. You are sentenced to 32 years in federal prison without parole. You will pay $12 million in restitution. Your parental rights are permanently terminated. Gregory stood motionless as the marshals led him away. He didn't look at me. He didn't look at anyone. He was already disappearing into the system that would hold him for the rest of his useful life. Outside the courthouse, Meredith put her arm around my shoulders. Sandra stood nearby, hands in her coat pockets, staring at the sky. Helen Kim held a framed photo of Rachel against her chest. She would have wanted to be here, Helen said quietly. She is, I said, and I meant it. 6 months later, I sat in the office of the Morgan Kim Foundation on the 4th floor of a converted warehouse in Nashville's Gulch District. The nonprofit was Meredith's idea, but I ran it. We helped fraud victims navigate the legal system, funded investigations, and lobbied for stronger federal protections against romance predators. In our first 6 months, we'd assisted 112 women across 19 states. We'd recovered $3.8 million. Sandra served on the board. Helen managed victim outreach. Keiko trained our investigators. My daughter was 3 months old, sleeping in a bassinet beside my desk. I'd named her Rachel. The phone rang. I picked it up. Morgan Kim Foundation, this is Nora. A woman's voice, shaking. My name is Diane. I'm calling from Tucson. I think my fiancé is lying about everything. I found 2 passports in his suitcase yesterday. Different names. Same photo. I pulled a notepad close, cradled the phone against my shoulder, and started writing. Diane, you're not alone. First, I need you to stay calm and stay safe. Have you told him what you found? No. I put everything back exactly how it was. Good. That was the right thing to do. Here's what happens next. That evening, I drove home to the house on Woodland Street. I'd kept it, repainted every room, replaced every piece of furniture he'd chosen. It was mine now. I carried Rachel upstairs, settled her in the nursery, and stood in the doorway watching her sleep. Her fists were curled near her cheeks, her breathing soft and steady. Your name is Rachel, I whispered. You're named after a woman who deserved better than she got. You're going to grow up knowing that strength isn't about never getting hurt. It's about what you do after. Downstairs, Meredith was in the kitchen making tea. She'd moved to Nashville permanently, taken an apartment 2 blocks away. We were rebuilding something we'd almost lost, not just a relationship, but a family. Another call today? She asked, handing me a mug. Tucson. 2 passports, different names. Meredith shook her head. They never stop. Neither do we. Outside, the Nashville skyline glittered against the dark. Somewhere in a federal prison in Virginia, Gregory Volkov sat in a cell that measured 6 by 9. And somewhere in Tucson, a woman named Diane was packing a bag to go to her sister's house, following instructions I'd given her, the same instructions that had saved my life a year ago. The work was never finished. But tonight, one more woman was free. Looking back, I realized there were 3 warnings I almost missed. The first was Meredith's text that October night. Sometimes the people we've pushed away are the ones God sends back to save us. The second was the vitamin bottle I couldn't bring myself to throw away. Something whispered, "Keep it." I didn't understand why then. I do now. The third was the moment I stood on my own front porch and watched them put my husband in the back of that SUV, and instead of falling apart, I felt my spine straighten. Don't be like me. Don't let charm replace character. Don't sign documents you haven't read. Don't let anyone, no matter how loving they seem, cut you off from the people who knew you first. If someone in your life is slowly shrinking your world, that's not protection. That's a cage. Family betrayal cuts deepest when it comes from someone you chose to love. But family revenge isn't about hatred. It's about standing up, walking out, and refusing to stay silent. If this story moved you, leave a comment below. Tell me, have you ever ignored a warning sign you wish you'd seen sooner? Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a story that could save a life. Thank you for staying until the end. Before you go, a quick note. The stories on this channel include dramatized elements created for educational and entertainment purposes. If this content isn't for you, feel free to explore other videos that better suit your preferences. Take care of yourself and the people you love.